see if we can get those approved, and then we'll move on into the Alta presentation this morning. So we're part 2 from what they shared with us in April. They've done some good work since then. So any comments, corrections to the minutes from April? Motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you, Carol. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Amy.
Thanks.
And I will go through. Oh, I see Donna's joining us.
I'm clicking the submit button, Matthew. I don't know if you're trying to do the same thing.
But we can do that. Yeah, that it
Okay.
doesn't matter. Any of us can do that.
Hey, Donna.
Okay. So with that, I will go through the roll call for voting. Okay. Amy seconded the item. Brandon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Carol made the motion. Donna, how do you vote?
We're approving the minutes, Donna. I don't know if you can hear us yet or not. We saw your name pop up.
Donna's on hold.
Oh.
Sharon, how do you vote?
Approve.
Okay.
Here's Michael.
And Kim?
Approve.
Thank you.
Hey, Michael, we were just running through the approving the minutes from April. Thank you.
All right.
Love it.
All right. That passes.
Great. Matthew, do you want to do a setup recap of Alta's work and where they are and sort of what our expectation is this morning?
Sure. So I think before I do that, I wanted to introduce Natasha Hale. So Natasha is an engineering technician that started recently in DOT. So she will be working a lot on GIS, a lot of mapping. So I thought this would be a great project for her to get involved with.
Awesome.
Natasha, I don't know if you'd like to introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you kind of did the major part of it, but it's great to be here, and I look forward to working with you all.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the map. This is a project that we've been working on with Alta for a while in conjunction with the Greenway Wayfinding project. So these two are combined into one project, really, from our perspective. That's the way we're managing it, because there's a lot of overlap between kind of the data that we're using for the two projects. But if you recall last time, the last meeting, Alta presented about the map and introduced the project and got some feedback from the group via survey about what kind of information we wanted to include in the map. And just to take a step back, so this will be our Greenway bike walk map to provide information about where our greenways are, where our bike routes are, where on-street infrastructure is, and just that general guide for cycling, primarily cycling in the community, but also focused on walking as it relates to greenways. So since the last meeting, Alta's kind of fleshed out the map and provided a little more content in it, and giving us an opportunity to review the kind of the base map and some of that information, and give us a chance to take a look at that and provide comments on what you all think of it. Is this, are we heading in the right direction with this? Is it showing the correct information? Is it highlighting what we want it to highlight, and so on? So I think over the next couple of weeks, this map, via the link that we shared, that we'll have that open for comments from you all, and then Alta will take that information, the feedback from you, and revise the map, and we'll just keep going through iterations like that until we have a final version. Awesome. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kim and Meg from Alta. And
hi, yeah, I can. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Maybe I'll just introduce myself and let you take it over from there. I'm Kim Williams, and you all haven't met me yet. I'm the project manager for the hike and bike and wayfinding map project, as well as the Safe Routes to School project, which I've been working with some folks here too. So excited to be here and support Meg. So take it away, Meg.
Cool. I'm Meg Bryson. I think I met most of you all before, leading the walk and bike map portion of the project, working with Kim and Matthew on that. So actually, Matthew, you saved me a few slides by doing your overview. Yep, got that. Here's where we are in the schedule. Yeah, I'll go over it later at the end too, what the next steps are. So today I just want to talk about, I think most of you have received the link and looked at the draft map. It's okay if you haven't looked at it yet. I just want to go over a little bit of how we got to this map and why it looks the way it does, how we implemented your feedback and input, and then some stuff where we are still probably making some changes. And then we'll have a short opportunity for some like high level impressions and reactions to the map. And then I'll also explain how you guys can give more detailed feedback on Miro, which is an online platform to provide input. I think some of you may have used it on the wayfinding project. And then I'll go over the next steps. So thank you all for completing the online survey. We did get some awesome quality responses there. And then as well as the participation from our kickoff meeting. Here's what we had asked you about. We kind of went over what's the intent of the map, what content is going to be on it, and how is it going to look. So general themes were that we wanted the map to have like a broad appeal and really serve as a marketing tool, as well as kind of spark interest in some of the stuff that people may not realize you can access via the trails, or not realize just how extensive the bike route system is. As well as I think City of Arts and Innovation came up a lot, along with like the context of history, the tobacco and the Moravians and Old Salem, as well as like the current period of innovation and kind of reinvention. So these are just highlighting some of the results from the survey. Definitely intended users, we want anyone to be able to pick it up, even if they're not familiar with the area. We want it to feel family friendly. For the map size, no one selected that they wanted the largest, like a large map. So for our draft map, we decided to go with the 19 by 26, which is a pretty solid medium-sized map that is also a standard industry size. So a lot of printers that do large format, that's like a good size. It's not like a custom weird size that you have to find a specialty person to print. And then for the ancillary content, these were kind of the top responses. And yeah, we're working on the top 3 of those and then kind of seeing how it plays out, but we'll probably have space for some of that other stuff too. We asked you to rank facilities and destinations, or not rank them, but just indicate the priority. And then I aggregated them, and they're in order here from highest to lowest priority. A couple of things. So the highlighted in red stuff, hills and steep slopes were important to a lot of people to show. And we're going to ask for your help identifying those, and I'll explain how you can do that a little bit later. For the existing signed bike routes and the level of comfort, level of stress, I'm also going to talk to you about some trade-offs there, and that's definitely a key thing that I think will probably change. We'll continue to tweak that in the next rounds of the map. And then for destinations, public restrooms and water fountains, that's not currently a data layer that we have. I don't know if that's, maybe we need one point person to kind of get us an up-to-date list of what parks or something like that.
Meg, just as an aside on that, the Parks Department may have a data layer with restrooms and water fountains, so I can check on that.
Cool, thank you. And then historic and cultural landmarks, that's also something we'll ask you guys to contribute to our current list if you see something that's missing. And Kim, is that correct that our current list is the list from the wayfinding destinations?
Yeah, we digitized some of them. Just looking through Visit Winston-Salem, and then we got your feedback on destinations. You did a mapping exercise early on several months ago, so it's a culmination of those two things. But we might be missing stuff, so feel free. So we're looking at, tourist destinations, kind of cultural civic destinations.
And then on the design side, seemed to be a preference for bright colors that are bold and approachable, reflecting kind of the color scheme of some of your tourism materials that are bright and stuff like that. We are currently coordinating with the wayfinding color scheme. It's not totally finalized, so we're staying flexible on that. And then we tried someone provided a comment to avoid colors that are too close to like the universities and healthcare systems. So hopefully we did a good job of that, but let us know if it's screaming hospital to you.
Nick, can I add one thing on that?
Yeah.
Our two wayfinding concepts had pretty different color palettes. So I think just keep in mind whatever you're seeing is going to look kind of visually different in the end. So we're going to try to use the blue that's consistent through Winston-Salem city materials and branding, but it could look different.
Yeah. Can I just throw in quick, am I correct that you can't see the chat while you're presenting?
Oh, I am not. Are people putting stuff in the chat?
No, but I just wanted to make sure folks know that you're welcome to chime in and ask questions along the way, or if you put stuff in the chat, I'll call out things as well.
Okay, there will be a little time for open discussion, but yeah, I have the chat up now. So
Okay.
if you chat, I can see it. So I just want to talk quickly about, if you've looked at the draft map, you'll see a lot of colored lines, which is your roadway network. And I just want to talk to you guys about the data that went into categorizing those. Oops. So we did a bicycle specific level of traffic stress, LTS, analysis. And when we do that, what we expect is that, we do all our fancy data, and then you guys are kind of the reality check and seeing if it looks right. And there'll probably be some back and forth and tweaking, and that will get us to our revised map. So the inputs in our analysis were basically roadway characteristics like the width, the number of lanes, speed, presence of bicycle facilities. And then the outputs are that the entire roadway network, every segment is coded on a scale of 1 to 4 with like least to most stressful. And this graphic shows just examples of what some of those levels of traffic stress look like. For instance, LTS1, there's actually no separated bike lanes in Winston-Salem. So all of your LTS1s are your lowest stress streets. Those are like trails and greenways and like shared neighborhood, low speed neighborhood streets without a center line. And then you'll notice on the map, we didn't label things LTS1, LTS2, because that's not really meaningful to the map end user. So we did some kind of adjusting. The other goal that we had with kind of naming the route types was to really be able to show connections between destinations. And I don't know, are y'all able to see my cursor on the screen or no? So I'm on this second row here, and this is kind of where there are some trade-offs between showing just LTS or showing your assigned bike route. You'll see on the map for this draft version, we gave the assigned bike routes like a lot of visual weight and a lot of priority, but I will tell you about some of the trade-offs with that. Basically, by prioritizing the assigned bike routes and visually emphasizing them, you do get a lot of connectivity between destinations and you show these established routes. But maybe a disadvantage of that is that each assigned bike route can have a lot of variation in how comfortable it is to users. So kind of the other end of the spectrum is to prioritize the level of traffic stress, but then your disadvantage there is that the network can look a little choppy and it's not always apparent what routes people should take. So It's not an either or. I think we'll probably end up somewhere in the middle between these two. But I would love to get feedback from you all on the assigned bike routes and your feelings on kind of directing people towards those, even though some might be stressful, and we can kind of highlight maybe certain areas that you feel it's assigned bike route, but we just don't want people to like take their family out expecting one type of experience and then, you know, it's like a higher traffic roadway.
Well, like one thing to mention is that level of stress is a really subjective thing for some folks, especially more experienced bicyclists. So I think if we're all thinking towards the same page, is that like this is a family-oriented map, so that those routes that pop out the most are really focused towards, you know, what are like beginning to, you know, more immediate level cyclists, like how do they want to see the connections through the city?
Yeah, and
I just literally typed in the stress factor is so subjective and individualized that it's almost impossible to make a judgment call on that fits every user.
Yeah, ours does tend to be a little more conservative too. So some experienced bike routes experienced bikers might be like, that's not a stressful road. But yeah. The other thing, just wanted to kind of explain a little bit about these pink blobs that you may have seen on the map, the low stress biking zones. And those we aggregated the lowest stress category streets that were all connected. And then we kind of used the higher stress streets as barriers. And that's how we define the borders of those islands. And they basically just kind of the goal there, and you guys can tell us if this is working or if it's not working for you, but to just show some areas where in theory, like it's a very low stress area where you could bike around that whole spot. And we looked at several different size cutoffs, and what you see on the map now is everything above 40 acres. So that's why you may see some areas and be like, why isn't this highlighted? That's probably why. So that was a lot. I'm sure you guys are like dying to share comments, or at least I hope you are. So we can have a little time now, maybe it's 9:20 now, so maybe like 5 minutes for discussion if you want to share your feedback. And if you don't have time, of course, you're welcome to like email me afterwards.
We actually gave 45 minutes for you guys today,
Oh, okay.
just in case, and we've extended our meeting time to an hour and a half so that we can cover other things after. So we don't have to rush unless you need to get off, and that's fine also. But
yeah, it works for me.
Yeah.
We can start out with maybe if there's any questions or clarifications, if it would be helpful to go back through the level of stress slide, because we went through that pretty quick, you know, anything that helps.
Good morning, this is Greg Garrett. I wanted to make a comment on the map. It looked like a lot of the thoroughfares are white in color and basically sort of fade out from visibility of the map. I think it's probably an important feature to show are the major roads, even though we're not encouraging maybe people to ride on them. A lot of them are going to be connections to destinations, and the way the map reads it, a lot of the orange lines just sort of stop and doesn't look like it really connects to those thoroughfares. So I'm wondering whether some color could be applied, maybe a black line or some other way of designating the major roads and thoroughfares that are in the city. Maybe that's too much color, but having the thoroughfares look white, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't work well, I guess.
Okay, thank you for that.
If I can just add on to what Greg's saying, I really like that they were downplayed to accentuate the other areas, but I know what you're saying, Greg. And I know when I look at a map for the first time, I need to orient myself to like, where's Peter
Right.
Creek? Where's Stratford? So maybe a little more of a contrast or something that they're maybe not the first thing you see, right? Because we want to accentuate the most comfortable,
Sure.
you know, bikeable, walkable areas. But yeah, it is helpful for at least orienting someone to where the heck am I? So it's a good point, Greg.
Yep, and exactly, Amy, that is kind of the trade-off that it is the way most people orient themselves when they look at a map, those major roads. But yeah, we were trying to downplay them, but if they're too downplayed, yeah, we can definitely experiment with some different color options.
Well, I see that you have, like some of the major highways are in a light gray or medium gray. Maybe that would be the solution also, is to have the thoroughfares shown as a light gray or a medium gray. So I'm an old highway guy, so that's my orientation, is just what Amy was saying, is that it's sort of the bones of the entire system, and it's something that people will identify with, probably helping to orient them where they are within the city. So
I see James or Alex has a comment. As a neutral third party, I have two thoughts. Not a huge fan of showing the local roads. It's a very busy map visually. I make an assumption that local roads with little or no signage infrastructure are more friendly than a collector or arterial road. Could you explain maybe that first point? Do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. I put together a map very similar to this one in an MPO, my old job at an MPO in Kansas City. And a lot of the cities submitted local roads for this big regional map, and it makes it look more friendly than I think the intent of the map is for. And so, I mean, there's just a lot going on here. When I opened it up, and as someone who does not live in Winston-Salem, as someone who comes for business or for pleasure, I don't care. I do not care about local roads. I'm more interested in seeing where infrastructure is built on those less those roads would be less safe than so like arterials, collectors, busier roads, higher volumes, higher speeds. And so that's my point, is that, if I open this map up, it's a lot to take in. And I just, it's putting the local roads on there is totally useless to me. So that's just my thought. Again, I have nothing to do with this. I'm not part of this committee. I'm just here to learn and see what's going on here. So
I think you have a lot of folks agreeing with you, Alex, me included, and Donna has chimed in. When I first opened it, it was overwhelmingly busy from a visual perspective.
Question for you. Feel that way, just real quickly. Do you think the zones could be a trade-off? So maybe not having all these secondary roads in orange, but having those zones in a nice light color that says like these are low stress. Do you think that would help turn down the busyness, but still get to the point of these are quiet neighborhoods? Or no?
Is that directed to me or to?
Yeah. Oh. For those who feel it's busy, would that be a good trade-off, do you think?
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even notice the zones, so they're that subtle. So potentially, although I think it'd have to be very clear on the legend to understand what they were.
Yeah,
I didn't notice the zones either.
I didn't either.
Clarifying question. Are you all looking at the overall map or the zoomed in downtown map? And do you feel like you're seeing a difference there in clarity? I think that was one thing we knew though. Yeah, I think the one thing we kind of knew about the overall map was that it's a lot of visual information, and that maybe the map style isn't closely matched to what the downtown map is yet. So I think if you want to look at the downtown inset map and get a sense for if you feel like that's a clear visual style, it's a little hard to because they're such different scales, but I think the idea is that downtown map is kind of where we're more progressed fully.
I have a question on this, on how the focus was chosen on the downtown map. It cuts off, for example, the largest trailhead for Salem Creek Greenway at Marketplace Mall, and Forsyth Tech is not on there, which that greenway is going to be extended to. And I added this in my comment too, but I just wonder if we should extend our focus. Part of the reason I mentioned that is because the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership is in the process of updating their own map, which is very downtown specific. And so if they do that, and they're very interested in including the bike walk information in their map, then we could have, this map could be a little bit larger. They do the focused in, and then we have sort of a pairing, complementary maps, if you will.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Can you all clarify the inset versus the main map? I assume the map will be two-sided. So what we're seeing with the large map and all the greenway guides on the left and the right and the top left, that is one side of the map, correct?
That would be one side, yeah.
And then the inset is the other side of the map entirely, or?
No, it's one small part of it's about a quarter of the back of the map. And then there'll be that extra content about with your bike safety information, like trail etiquette, transit.
Okay, got it, thank you.
And I just want to emphasize one more time, that really the maps ourselves are what we're asking feedback on. So this is really great information. As far as like graphic design and readability of everything else, especially on the large context map, we got some work to do on that. So just know that it, like, graphically it will be different by the end. Did anyone else make any comments that we need to elaborate on?
Yeah, I think there's a few in the chat. I didn't get to this, but Alex also said a reminder to make sure that the color palette is colorblind friendly.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to that from a colorblind perspective. I appreciate that the varied thickness in the lines. So I see that, and I can see that there's a different, like there's a contrast. I don't have a name for the colors that I'm seeing, but I see that like there's a darker, bolder color and there's a thinner, lighter color. So I appreciate that. My other question is, do we have an opportunity to create an app for this? Something that can be interactive where, let's say I want to know where the steep hills are, and that's something that I could interact with by clicking on like show me the route for, bike trails, or show me the route for sidewalks.
I can chime in, but
Donna mentioned that as well, and I think the answer right now is that the budget that we have right now is for this, and an app is not included. But I would love to pursue that. It'd be great if someone would take that on as a lovely pro bono project.
I can address the scope. So it includes the printed map, but it also includes an online map. So it won't be an app, a dedicated app for this map, but there will be an online version of the map as well.
At bare minimum, there could just be a blurb that Winston-Salem is very hilly.
So I'm,
Yep.
now I'm wondering, I know when I open these maps, I have to admit, I write flood insurance and it looked like a flood map, and those they overwhelm me. And so I was a little overwhelmed, so I got to tell you, I closed them. And I'm wondering if if there's going to be an online version, sometimes it's kind of like, I guess I'm thinking of Google Maps, and I think the answer is I'm going to have this. It can have a lot of detail, but you can, if it's online, make it smaller and see less detail and more of the trails. And then if you spread it wider, you can see all the detail. Is there any way to make it go from high detail to low detail, so that it's easier to just get a snapshot? And if you need to drill down to see the street, then you make it bigger so you can see the street.
There will be a way to do that with the online map. And I think, the idea is that the larger map is a more simplified version. So to the point of, I think, some of the comments trying to emphasize what are the most important routes on the regional map. But again, I think if you all want to, I think especially focus on the downtown map and the visual quality of that and what it's communicating. If that's, I would use that as your guide to give a lot of feedback on. If that's where you can dive into, I think that would be the most helpful. The overall regional map is still a work in progress, but definitely want your input on, what's missing on there as far as like labeling and I think like extents and stuff like that. Meg, I think, if you want to throw up the questions again, some of those clarifying things we were looking for, that I think that'd be helpful.
Which questions, Kim?
Did we have any like clarifying questions, things we wanted to ask, or just whatever you had on the last slide? Oh, it's up there.
Yeah,
got minimized.
Like Sharon's suggestion on making it a little larger. I understand why you made it this size, but our downtown to me is spread out further than what you're showing. The other thing that I have a little bit of a concern or fear for is the legend. We're not showing much east of 52. We do have quite a few greenways east of 52, but we've got the legend covering everything over east of 52. And I think there are enough, I think we're trying to incorporate them or connect them east of 52 better than, or we're trying to connect that area to the downtown a little bit stronger than we have in the past. And putting the legend right over the top of it, I don't think helps.
Gotcha. And that is actually something we had talked about. I kept the legend on the map so that you could see it as one document, but I think we have space on the back of the map that the legend could be, outside of that and not covering that. But so just to recap, I guess what I'm hearing generally sounds like we need to make the downtown inset map kind of extend those boundaries. And maybe you guys can provide some specifics in the Miro board of where you would like those boundaries to be. The other thing is that it is too busy. I'm hearing a lot of like potential trade-offs. The thing I think if we were to remove or downplay all the local streets is that I think that would make us have to rely a lot on the signed bike routes, because if you just do your bike lanes and your greenways, you're not really able to show connections because people aren't going to bike on those arterial roads, or I don't think that's what we're trying to encourage. So that is one, I guess, just thing to consider. Those local roads are maybe where families would feel comfortable biking. So just, something to think about. Anything else?
I think Michael had a good question in the chat about being able to toggle layers on and off in the online map.
Mm-hmm. I think we do have that functionality, right?
Yeah, that should be doable. And Meg, just FYI, Greg had some comments on like stuff being mislabeled, so I'm just copying those into our minutes.
Okay, and Greg and anyone else that has comments like that, that would be great on the Miro board, which if we're done with discussion, we can move on to that. But if we still have stuff to discuss, then.
And I'll copy the chat and send it to you again like I did before, just so if there's anything in there that we didn't see or capture, you have it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Brandon
Greg,
mentioned, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Brandon mentioned in the chat about bike shops as destinations. And I think that's one point that I wanted to bring up with the group was, you know, the way the destinations are identified on the map. You know, do we have too many labeled? Is it clear that those are destinations just by looking at the map? I think for me, that was a major point of this map, is for people to be able to connect to those destinations via whether it's trails or signed bike routes or just neighborhood streets. And are we accomplishing that with the way the map is set up? And do those destinations really pop for you? And are they the right destinations? So not that we need an answer on that right now, but something to think about. And as we go into the longer term, the 2-week period of providing input, I think that would be very helpful to have feedback on that. Oh, and I should correct myself. That was Greg who made that comment.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm reading through your comment as well.
Okay, well, in the interest of time, I think I'll go on to explain the Miro stuff. Thank you, everyone. And even the person who said they were a neutral third party, I mean, that is also really valuable information, since the people who look at the map won't be the people on the steering committee. Okay, so we will send you out a link to this board. Miro is like an online platform for collaborative reviewing, I guess. Here's what it will look like. If you've never used it before, you'll open it up. And Kim, do you have to make an account, or can you just comment?
Oh, I don't think you should.
Okay. Yeah. So there'll be some directions on the left, and then the maps are on the right. So just the directions tell you what to do with the little drag and drop symbols. So what we're asking is if there are steep slopes on, not all throughout the city, but on major bike routes, obviously, if you could place the directional arrows in the uphill direction, and then we can get that information into the next round of the map. We also had, I'm not sure about this one anymore, since it sounds like we might do a lot of changing how things are displayed, but right now we have some kind of low stress zones that are divided by some higher stress roadways, and we were hoping to get your input on where are some safe crossings that you would use if you were biking or walking on those roadways. So we have green circles for you to pull onto those areas. And then if there are destinations or areas that you feel are left out, you can add there's an option to just add a comment, and you can do that. And then there's also a link to a quick survey about the map title. I know last time we didn't really like the name Hike and Bike, so we kind of brainstormed some concepts, and it's a really quick survey, just reacting to the concepts and providing a suggestion if you have one. So yeah.
Meg, do you want to put the link in the chat to Mira?
Yeah, I actually can't, I don't think I can copy it from this. Unless yeah, sorry, it won't let me.
We'll send it out right after this call. But I would say we can also, I think somebody joined late, we'll also send the presentation out as well, so you can go through what are the key questions we're asking, and then look at this.
Yeah, if you send it to me and Matthew, and then we'll send it to the committee we did before.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, one quick question. I know this is focusing on biking. Will you eventually layer in walking on the same map, or is?
So
I'm glad you brought that up. I was curious about that in the introduction as well. I actually really love that you call it the walk and bike map instead of the bike and walk map, because we tend to so easily go bike heavy, and we really want this to be pedestrian focused. Any thoughts on that?
My first thought is that it's going to be difficult to show sidewalks on this map. If we think it's busy now, just wait till we add the sidewalk layer to this. So that might be difficult. I think maybe in the inset map, there's a better chance for showing some of that sidewalk infrastructure, but I'm not sure how we show that on the larger map. And maybe, I'm open to ideas, but the focusing on the greenways and that opportunity for walking may be what we have to focus on.
Yep.
And Kim, Meg, you may have other ideas, but I think it's just going to be difficult to accurately show the sidewalk network and do so in a way that's actually beneficial to people.
Yeah,
and you did say that in April. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Amy asked about the digital, adding sidewalks on the digital map, and definitely that is, I agree, Matthew, it's gonna look very busy if we add it to the main map, like the large scale city map. So I think I could see that working better at the online map. Yeah,
I love that idea. And to be able to toggle it on and off would be great.
That would be good, because I think toggling, I really think these the print maps are nice to have a quick visual, and maybe I'm just biased to online, but online you can just really manipulate it a little better in terms of getting as much detail as you want or as little detail as you need, because I do understand why you have the level of detail on the print. It's just very difficult to see, but I understand the functionality of it all. So.
And what I'll say, one of the favorite maps that I've seen online that I thought was most beneficial was each of the, say, the way we're showing the traffic level, the stress level on this map, to be able to toggle on and off, stress level 1, 2, or 3 on that online map. So if you are somebody who is just interested in the extremely low stress network, you can turn off the other layers, and it will just show you that stress level 1 or any combination of those, depending on your comfort level. To me, that was a really great map, and maybe that's something we can do with the online map and still use the stress level analysis that Alta did, but use it in a way on the online map to maximize the functionality of that.
One thing I'll mention as far as being able to see regionally important pedestrian corridors is maybe could be part of a planning process in the future. For example, the city of Asheville, I worked with their pedestrian and greenway and ADA transition plan, and they identified neighborhood greenways. So essentially sidewalk or low traffic streets where you could get regional connectivity and pedestrian ways that are really important to connecting to major destinations and greenways. So I think that's not something we totally have the budget to do in this, but I think that starting to identify those key routes is a really valuable thing to do for visitors and people that just are getting into walking and not knowing exactly how to get from point A to point B.
I think it would be helpful too for people who rely on public transportation. Like Greg mentioned, it might be easier to show where not to go, like which route is not a good route to, like, from your neighborhood to the nearest bus stop. If there's a portion of that route that doesn't have a sidewalk or that has a sloped hill that you wouldn't be able to have access to, might be future information if possible.
My gut is if we showed things we don't have, we will be very embarrassed. I'm just being honest. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing, especially for this committee and other people involved, to know that we have major gaps. But as far as putting it on a map, I'm very like, oh gosh, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the gaps. I want to emphasize where we're doing right. But I agree that there probably are areas where it's just problematic and we need to call that out so someone doesn't try to take that route and then end up, you know, in a bad situation. So I agree with that.
Cool. I think two last comments in the chat that are, Brandon, to your point, we do have icons for trailheads, but I'm not sure if those include parking. Like they might, some of them I think have parking and some don't. So if we, maybe Matthew, if you were asking the Parks Department for the public restrooms and water fountains, maybe if they also have something about which trailheads have parking.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. And we also have a layer of for bike parking throughout the community. Now that might become too much. So I think we can provide that data and then we just figure out the best way to show that.
I think you guys might be talking about two different things.
Yes.
After you're talking about bike parking and she's talking about automobiles parking to access.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me check with Recreation and Parks Department on that.
Yeah, we do have that bike parking layer. It's not turned on at the moment in this draft, but
I wonder if there's a way to add a symbol. So we do have the greenways listed on both sides. I wonder if there's a way to have a quick icon you put somewhere near those that just say there's water there, there's parking there, whatever. Instead of adding it to the map, adding it to those legends or the info bars on the sides about the greenways. Because oftentimes those are connected to parks. Those have some amount of bathrooms or water or whatever. So instead of adding more clutter to the map, I wonder if you could just quickly add a quick icon or just, and you wouldn't want to add the text, right? Because there's already a lot of text right there, but maybe there's another way for you smart people to figure that out.
yeah, I like that idea. I guess the only thing is some of the greenways will have multiple trailheads and they could be like a mile apart or something.
Yeah.
But I like that idea. So let's explore it.
And just as a fundamental to me, I mean, I think maps are meant to, and I think I said this at the very beginning, I like maps that make me feel like, oh, there's cool stuff to do. There's places to go. There's things I want to explore. It's not meant to be like, let me carry it with me every day and take it out and answer all my questions. So like, there's a balance to me of putting the information out there so that people can be excited and interested in then going to the digital map and, you know, researching a little bit more and turning layers on and off and doing their more planning, because the physical map itself can't do everything. And we're trying to do a lot, and I really appreciate the thought that's going into which things we emphasize, but I want this to make people feel excited and interested in trying to walk somewhere, trying to bike somewhere, connecting transit into their stuff. To me, that's what I would love for this map to do. So however we get people excited and thinking that there's an opportunity to do more walking and biking, that'd be great.
I like that, Amy. It's meant to be more like a teaser. Here's the first glance, and then it should pique your curiosity so that you go dig deeper into those areas or activities or things that you want to know more about or do more of.
I like how you framed that, Amy, and I wanted to mention that we'll also be using kind of the blow up inset style for some trailhead maps. That's something we're scoped to do later, as well as we can have a QR code at the trailheads for the online map. So it can be a very functional set of information.
Yeah,
but I like your idea of it being more illustrative for the map, build-out map.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and agree. Well said. Thanks for the feedback so far and the feedback that you will continue to provide. So we have 2 weeks that will keep the Moreau board open. And also, like I said, if you think of something after this meeting, feel free to email your thoughts to me or drop them in the board. The next few months, we'll have several other kind of rounds of review. They won't be a presentation like this. It'll probably maybe be in Moreau if that works out for everyone. And then goal is to get to that final map in August. Here's the review dates, same as last time. So if you already noted these, they're the same. So we'll get your feedback by May 24th, and then we'll make revisions and have a second draft for you to look at again in mid-June. So that's all that I have. Any kind of last comments?
I have one, you know, Amy touched on, and then Kim kind of reiterated the QR code at the trailheads. Is that something that's, I don't know the time frames of both, but I know the wayfinding project's kind of underway as well. Is that something that go hand in hand, or just be like another kind of little smaller separate sign just with just a QR code or something? And
yeah, it would be with
necessarily an answer, but I just want to make sure we're thinking about that as those other side projects are going on simultaneously.
It would be with the kiosk updates as we move further into wayfinding.
All right, well, I guess we will jump off here, and Sharon, if you could send us the transcript afterwards, that would be awesome. And we'll send out to you and Matthew the presentation link and the Miro link. Oh, I think you're muted, but.
Thank you guys so much. I have a dog alarm going off behind me, so I was trying not to have her join our meeting. Thank you so much for all your work. Really appreciate it.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Okay, apologize for the barking, but I'm so excited to see this come together. It's going to be a great thing for us to have. I'm really excited. So she's going to send the link. They're going to send the link to the Miro, which if you haven't used, you can just go in, click around, add comments, either on the map, or there's like a box that you can just type in stuff. If you find that too complicated, you can look at it on a screen and just make notes in an email and share it that way as well. And I was just looking, our next meeting is June 14th. So we can certainly use a little time then if we need to recap and discuss anything further that we might want to get some group consensus around too. I know they have June 12th as their deadline, but could probably wiggle room that just a little bit if we need to on something major. Any questions on that? Any other thoughts? I will reach back out to Jason Thiel to see what their timeline is on their updated map for the Downtown Winston-Salem partnership. Again, I want to make sure these are complementary and that we don't duplicate work, or that they can have their focus area and we add to it and vice versa. That kind of thing as we move forward. Mason, I replied to you in the chat. It is not publicly available yet. This is a very, very early draft stage that the committee is working on in development. This was just a sampling this morning and not yet. So moving on into our other agenda, we wanted to circle back and talk about our last meeting in April, not necessarily what came up, but how that discussion proceeded. I kind of left feeling like we had so much unfinished conversation at the end of our April meeting. And also I felt like we had kind of jumped ahead of ourselves. We had spent such great time earlier this year developing this work plan, but then we didn't give ourselves the time we needed to talk about that work plan once it was written up. So we had a retreat, we created a work plan, we created a mission and vision, and then we kind of got busy But before we move into action items, we need to take that apart and we need time to digest it. We need to talk about it as a group. We need folks to be able to raise their hands and ask questions and get involved in the pieces of that you'd like to be involved in. And I feel like we skipped that step. And so I apologize for not allowing time for that. Obviously the Alta project needed to move forward. So I feel like we didn't do ourselves justice in follow up and next steps after our work plan. So that's what I want to do with the rest of our time today. And we did ask, I hope everyone is okay to stay. Thank you, Alex. Integrated mobility. Thank you. If you can send that to me and Matthew, we'll get it out to the committee. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Got it. Sorry, I'm talking to the chat window. Information coming from NCDOT on some opportunities to participate in some webinars. Okay. Close the chat so I'm not distracted. So easy to be distracted. To moving back, I know that the work plan was shared with everyone, and I don't expect you to have it in front of you now, but just some of the things to make note of is we had kind of set some buckets on sort of what our focus areas would be: advocacy, advisory roles, and then from those, we had some objectives. We have had one active work group that has been discussing policy, the UDO. And as of right now, that's the only active work group we have. And we've had committee changes in our membership since that group started. And so I feel like it would be appropriate to sort of regroup ourselves, to look at our current work plan and break that out, have some time for discussion, what those buckets look like and feel like, and then have our current committee members be able to say what they want to volunteer for, be more engaged in, learn more about, and where appropriate, take action on. Does that feel right to everyone? Any other comments from all of what I just said? Questions? Okay. I can just sort of, first of all, Brandon, did you get a copy of our work plan? Do you know if you got a copy of it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I didn't want to have not sent that to you. So the first pieces of that were really advocacy, to be proactive and intentional in community building. And some of those things were to, identify committee members who attend or want to start attending some of the public meetings. Donna, we know that you attend when you can, or at least watch the city council meetings. We have the Public Works Committee, others, and then make sure that we give appropriate time for the people who do attend those meetings to actually share in these monthly meetings. That's another thing that we have not done, and I really want to build into the agenda going forward. It's great that, Donna, we're not doing fair justice if you attend city council meetings, but then we never give you the chance to share with the committee what happens and things that we should be paying attention to. So, and Donna, I'm just using your example because I know that you have mentioned those before, but it could be anyone or any public entity or engagement opportunity. including volunteering at other events. You know, we had all of these Earth Day activities going on. And did anyone attend those, and have we given a chance to share feedback or conversations that were had that help guide us in better serving the community, which is what we're here to do. Advising, you know, increasing our visibility, again, that regular attendance, and then reviewing and providing recommendations on ordinances. We need to make sure that we're allowing all of our committee members the chance to engage and provide feedback before we bring something to the group, ask questions and that kind of thing, partnering with city staff, and looking at resources. So our objective, so this is where we are planning action. I think this is where I'd like to see us sort of break down and choose our own roles and activities related to those objectives. I'm going to pause and offer some time for if you have ideas for either a work group or a process around any of these buckets that we've identified. If there's anyone with like a burning desire to lead or take on a specific piece of our work, or if anyone has questions around, hey, what does that mean? What does that entail? What are you looking for? What do you think is appropriate? All of those kinds of things.
Can you name the buckets again? Are there specific buckets that we, and my other just thought about all of this in general is that it might benefit us as a committee and as individuals to rotate amongst certain buckets, like so that we all get exposure or experience to a wide variety of opportunities and just education.
Really like that. So our buckets, I guess that's the best word for these. I can't think of another one. Are advocacy, advisory, or roles as a committee. Advocacy, advisory, were the two main buckets, and within those we have attendance and visibility with public meetings, reviewing and providing input on ordinances and plans, thank you, Mason. Sorry. Reviewing, providing recommendations on ordinances, plans, and projects. And that's like the micromobility ordinance is one that's top of our list actually to be reviewed and updated. The UDO, which is kind of an ongoing, Salem Creek Greenway extension, which is underway, and then the bike walk map and the Greenway wayfinding that Alta is leading this year. So our top priorities this year, as we stated in our retreat, number one was the micromobility ordinance, to compare that to other cities, other municipalities, merging trends, consider what portions might apply to privately owned mobility devices, and then submit recommendations for that. Our second priority was to participate in and complete recommendations for the Greenway signing and mapping, which was underway, and to participate in decision-making process for the Salem Creek Greenway extension. And Matthew, I'll pause in a second to get an update on that. And then the fourth was the review of the UDO with suggested text edits as deemed appropriate and then agreed on by the committee. So that was kind of that advocacy and advisory. And then our liaison priorities were, number one, continue to build relationships with other BPACs, increase awareness across our community around safety and information, watch for me and see, and that kind of thing. That was a lot. Did that make any sense at all? I could just start from the top if that's easier to say, you know, we need to review the micromobility ordinance. That was our first priority. Are there people who are really interested in that? I personally am. And to get a timeline together for that. I don't think we need to do a lot around the Greenway signage because we're actively involved in that, and that project is underway. And then Matthew can give us an update on timeline and what would be next steps on Salem Creek. We could just start with those three. Really just, I want to make sure everyone has a voice and a chance to raise their hands. I don't want it to be, and there's lots of different ways to participate. So I don't want us to feel like there's only one way or only one person who can and is leading any particular aspect of our work. I love what you said about rotating. I think that's a great idea for us to hand things off and just to really be more communicative as a committee and not isolate or segment ourselves.
When you say micromobility, do you mean scooters and e-bikes specifically?
Go ahead, Matthew.
I was going to say, yeah, the focus is really on shared micromobility. So the companies that make available for rent the scooters, the electric bikes. So right now that's Spin, but really any other company that would come in, just the framework in which they operate.
There's an ordinance right now that has some outdated language due to changes in technology, changes in the way the Spin operates, changes in users, the addition of the e-bikes under that. And so we need to update that ordinance to reflect current state.
I have a quick update on that. So we had presented that kind of the general recommendations for those updates back in, I think it was January or February, to Public Works Committee. And we're working with the city attorney now to revise some of that language. So what I could do, we could prepare an update in June and just kind of revisit that. You know, the materials that we presented in January are available for everybody to review. So ahead of June, maybe I would share that and then prepare an update on what that actual language would look like.
Sharon, I know Greg has dropped off, but I was thinking that back in either January or February, he took on an assignment to look at that micro mobility plan and do some research on that. And I think he was ready to present information back to us in a prior meeting, but the meeting ran late and he did not have an opportunity to do that. But we might want to check with him to see what research he's already done, because I thought he had taken that assignment on.
I was not aware of that, but good to know.
So when I look at these, looking at the document from a while back, Seems like micromobility is something we'll do as a full group. Matthew can bring an update to us in June and we can weigh in and have collective feedback there. The Greenway signage and mapping we're already doing as a group now through August. The participate in decision making on Salem Creek Greenway, that's something it sounds like Matthew might be able to give us an update. We do again as a full group. The UDO has a working group and we need to probably represent the content we had from last month or month of whenever it was.
That was last month, April.
Okay, bring that back for full group participation, full group input. But then the other items like the liaison, those seem like more things either we could do individually and or have a work group. I'm wondering if for number one, continue to build relationships with other municipal BPACs, blah, 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 improving our own committee's ability to serve. Some of that has already been started. I know Carol's met with a million different places and others have been involved. So maybe just to reassess, have we completed that or do we have other places we need to reach out to and then assigning one person to kind of build that relationship and then come back to the group? The only other one I thought might benefit from a formal like working group would be the last one, continue to increase awareness and communication across the community. And we list out a lot of stuff, improving awareness of the pedestrian safety laws, promoting watch for me, almost like a marketing group that kind of thinks about how do we get this information out into the community more. That I could see maybe forming a small working group to kind of think about how do we leverage city resources? How do we leverage community groups to get this word out? But in looking at the work, a lot of the work we are doing collectively at our monthly meetings, so that's good. But those were the few areas that I thought we could break out into smaller groups to do mid-month, work and then come back. But I agree, Sharon, to the point earlier that to make it work, we'll have to build in time to the agendas for these individual groups to be able to present their updates. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think we need just a refresh. I know there has been a UDO work group, but I'd like to see opportunities for engagement to be more open, especially as we have membership adjustments in our committee to say this is what we are currently working on and have that door be more open to would you like to join and participate with us in these external, but in between meetings conversations. I do agree that number two, that awareness and communication, part of what, in order to be successful in all of these pieces, we're really leading culture change in our community. So how people understand micromobility in all facets, and that's from drivers to neighborhoods to end users to all of it. We really need to change the whole dialogue in the community in order to progress in our safety measures and our access and all of that. And so we've talked about communication before, but I think if we call it marketing, that's some social media post and a flyer and this. Culture change and communication that drives culture change is very different. And I think that is what we need to dive into, the talking points, so that when you do meet a city council member, we are all sharing the same message, that we are delivering the same information and the same reasoning for the things we're asking for. Sorry, here comes the trash truck. Wednesdays are busy in West Salem. Anyway, we need those talking points in hand so that when we have these conversations with public officials, with representatives, with people who control budgets, that we really validate the things we're asking for and suggesting to them as we want to move the needle in different areas.
I agree with Amy. I think that marketing group can do all of that. I think that communication piece and making people more aware, because it's really interesting when you talk to people about this committee. There's like, oh, I'm so glad somebody's doing that, but they don't know it's available. So I think it's stair stepping it, and I would be interested in being a part of a committee about about building awareness.
Great. Thank you, Donna.
I'd be happy to be on that committee too.
Thanks, Kim.
Same here.
Whoa, now.
So I think, Amy, you're our leader, though. But it won't be hard. It's going to be easy, and you're.
This will be it'll be fun. This is all fun. Culture change is such a fascinating process to see where and why people dig in and don't want to let go of ways and past ties and that kind of thing, and building that understanding of just all the layers that come with this. It's not just about getting on a bike and riding somewhere or just putting on some running shoes and taking a long walk. There's so many other pieces to this from a community perspective. Any other thoughts there?
Touching on the UDO work, I'm happy to, I'm sure Carol is too, re-share the information, talk about how we got to where we are as far as what we can discuss and offer up to folks as a possible change. My impression is people don't love this work, and I know why, because it is extremely tedious. It's like reading legal documents. So I don't necessarily expect a ton of this committee to want to do that work, but I fully commit to sharing regular updates, getting feedback from the rest of the group on which direction we go, what we prioritize. I think that was kind of our hope earlier in the year, and things have just gotten busy. So I'm happy to circle back. Carol, I'm assuming you're on board with that as well.
Oh, yeah, yes, that's anybody that wants to be involved or to provide feedback, we are open to that. And that's what we were trying to do last month, was to get feedback on the work that we've done.
And I think you won't be back, you're traveling or something, so we wouldn't be able to bring updates till like July or August, right?
Yeah, I will not be here in June.
Okay.
If you're here, and Amy, you could share the update as well. Donna, what were you?
I would like for that to be to come back, and it would be great if both of you are there so that you can, because I know it's been a little bit of a time, and sometimes as a committee it's good to have somebody else. Do you remember this or this? So it wouldn't matter to me if we had to wait a minute, but it would be great. I have been paying more attention, quite frankly, to the sidewalks as a result. It's just made me more aware of, oh, that's what that means. So that work has informed how I look at things as I'm walking around.
That's great. I think the other thing is just explaining, not so much into the weeds of what all you've been doing and why, but once you get to a place where you are coming back to share, and this is for all of us, not just for the EDO, but if we've had a work group and you've had deep conversation and you've done comparisons and you have a recommendation to share, once it's coming back to the full committee, honor the work you've done and bring it back as this is the current state, this is what we see, and this is our recommended change. And when you're bringing it back to the full committee, at that time, it's time for us to put our sort of, yes, we agree, let's move that forward. If you're coming back with a recommendation, if there are questions and things that the committee needs to discuss as you're formulating a recommendation, that's part of our discussion time. But making sure that we know in advance if you're ready to make a recommended change, then that needs to go on the agenda as an action item and us be able to vote on that. And that should be just a clear, simple, current recommended change and why. And and then we'll be prepared to vote on that. So there's a difference between updates and action item, if that makes sense, as we formulate work groups and move forward with things. Is there anything else we need to do? This is Bike Month and it's May 10th. So I don't want to let go of that entirely. There were a couple of notes. Michael, I wanted to give you a minute to talk about the Flow Bike Share and how that rolls into SPIN and the micromobility, shared micromobility. The Ride of Silence next Wednesday, which I plan to be at this year finally. Loads of stuff going on with Forba and Beers and Gears. You guys have all kinds of things happening, which I've seen. Anything else that might be going on? I know that Bike Walk NC has really been pushing out the safety information on their social media, which is great. So again, I'll stop talking and let you guys dive in on some updates. And Michael, if you want to talk about the Flow Bike Share real quick, that'd be great.
Sure, thanks, Sharon. Yeah, so unfortunately we had to discontinue the Flow Bikes Bike Share. Couple reasons. It was getting great. We felt like it was getting some good usage, especially in the parks and on the greenways. Over the last 2 years, we started out with 100 bikes. Goal was to spread out over 20 stations. We never made it. I think we had 17 at one time. And we had the approvals to get the other spots, but as time went on, a lot of the bikes were being vandalized. People were just trying to break them off the racks by destroying the locks. And then we'd have onesie twosies disappearing every now and then, which we kind of expected. But then all of a sudden there was a time frame where somebody had obviously made a concerted effort to steal a bunch of bikes. There was one week in particular, I noticed. I went around on a Tuesday, kind of did an inventory. By that Friday, I'd noticed about 15 to 20 bikes gone.
Oh my gosh.
But over the 2-year period, we had half the fleet disappeared. So about 50 bikes disappeared. And then we had another about 25 that were vandalized and not able to use. So we were literally, by the end of it, we were operating on 17 bikes. And our insurance premiums were close to $30,000. So and obviously we weren't going to make any income with that little amount of bikes. So it was just a kind of a variety of things. We felt like it's a great thing for the city. It just wasn't really sustainable, and for us as an organization to continue. We certainly are grateful to have SPIN step in there with the e-bikes. I think that's kind of the next generation, especially like we talked about Winston being really hilly. For folks that are using those bikes, they're not typically your avid bike riders, so that electric assist is certainly going to be beneficial for those users. So we have just sent a note out to thank all our sponsors. Luckily we have a lot of great contributors here in our community, whether they be the larger organizations or just some of the smaller groups as well. But there's a lot of people that were backing it. And even before the Flow Bikes, we had Zagster in operation, and the Cycling Center was kind of the sponsoring agent. And what I mean by that is we were the ones that went around finding all the potential sponsors to support that system as well. So, we've kind of been in the bike share business, either directly or kind of supporting that for the last 5 or 6 years. So we felt like it was a really good run. Really, it kind of set the way for the new micromobility to kind of come in. And yeah, we're just, it's sad to see it go, but I think it's kind of reached its time for us as an organization. So
that makes sense. I hate to hear that, but yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. That was a big win for us as a city to have that in place for all those years, and having closed down an organization recently myself, I know the mixed emotions that goes with the cycles of doing work and closing it out and hopefully passing it on and it continuing in different forms. But I just definitely want to recognize the contribution of money and labor and, all that to make that happen, because I do think it's been an important stepping stone to continue. I mean, it's a proof of concept enough that Spin was willing to come and that should be nice. I haven't tried them yet, but I'm looking forward to having the e-assist.
And one just little side note, thank you, Amy. Matthew, Kelly Rupert Holt from Tandem Mobility, who she was at Zagster years ago. She was kind of consulted us when we first got launched. She had reached out to me saying that Tandem would like to kind of pick up where we possibly left off. But I just kind of directed her towards you, so you may be hearing from her or something.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Yeah, and I would just echo what Amy said, that many thanks to the National Cycling Center for being a leader in micromobility in our community. I think that 6 years ago, to have that system in place was fantastic, and it opened up a lot of opportunities for cycling for a lot of people. So yeah, thank you very much for all of your effort in that.
Amy put a bunch of things in the chat here, and Matthew added the MPO newsletter with a write-up about National Cycling Center's bike share program, FORBA, which is the Mountain Biking Association in Forsyth County, Beers and Gears. Amy, you can talk about your own. I don't need to tell people who you are. You tell people who you are. All the events going on there. Rite of Silence. Does anyone not know what that is? And Michael, if you want to talk about that, you can. But it's a national event, international or national event, for people who have been injured or killed on bikes in motor vehicle crashes. And there's a bike vigil, I guess, every year in May. I was in Chicago this past weekend and saw lots of white bikes and flowers around. But you do a police department guided, escorted vigil, silent ride, and ask that folks wear white to draw attention to and promote awareness of. Thanks, Donna. You too. Anything else you want to say as I stumbled through that, Michael?
Yeah, I'll say so. Amy and I have connected, and so Beers and Gears and National Cycling Center are kind of tasked with self-tasked ourselves to organize and get going. But yes, we'll be meeting at Bailey Park between 6:30 and 6:45. We're going to hopefully to roll out at 7 p.m. on Wednesday the 17th. Yeah, like you said, Sharon, everybody kind of wear white. It's kind of a, there are times to socialize ahead of time and afterwards, but it's not a social ride. But I will say in the past, we've had upwards of 80 people come out and participate. So we'll have the motorcycle squad come, and they'll kind of run the intersections. We also have a trailer that has a big banner on it. It's about a 4x8 that kind of talks about it. And then we'll ride down, hopefully in high visibility spots. Typically we'll catch, if it's a nice night, we'll catch people out dining on 4th Street. So it is pretty impactful. People are always, you see everybody breaking their necks to look and see what's going on with the police, and then all the white and all the bikes. We also will have I'm working with Matthew on getting some locations for the white bikes, just approval. So probably just all next week, and then they'll probably just be out for a week or so, but and some signage. But yeah, just trying to raise awareness, not only to us, to fellow cyclists, but to those drivers out there that aren't, they don't ride bikes, they don't really thinking about it, just to kind of just say, hey, this is happening on our streets, please do your part by being safe and being considerate for others. So important event for sure. And please, yeah, make it if you can. It's 7 miles, low speeds. Yeah, it's real. You know, I'd say anybody can do it. You know, just because everybody, there's just when you get with that collective group, you just you pull off the energy of others and stuff. So it's a good time. And you'll have Amy there to lead the cheerleading part at the very beginning, getting everybody organized, which she does a fantastic job of.
I was going to ask, I mean, we normally have some kind of collateral there to give to people to say, like, give this to someone else, educate, don't just ride, you know, share this with a family member, a colleague, something. Matthew, I've run out of those, or I don't have many of the small, like, I don't know if they're like bike and
the ones
walk.
we gave out to bike shops. Those...
Yeah, do you have any extra collateral? I think I only have a small stack, and if we have 50+ people, I might run out. Is there something I can swing by and get from somewhere?
Yes, yeah, we have plenty of those left, so I'll make sure we have a stack waiting for you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you. That'd be great.
Well,
I will say one more thing, just while I got the collective audience, and some of you guys received a notice from me. I think I don't have everybody's email, but I'm also the volunteer coordinator for the Gears and Guitars coming up in August, and we certainly welcome any and everybody's interest if you're interested in come and participate. And for me, I've been volunteering at all kinds of stuff since I was younger because my mother was in recreation and she just pulled us out there. But it carried on through high school, and I find that through being a part of these activities and stuff, you actually you have a better experience. So if you are planning on being in town for Gears and Guitars, and you know you haven't ever volunteered, I just love you guys to consider kind of volunteering in some position, whether it just, you know, there's quite a bit. I revamped the Sign Up Genius last night. And if you didn't receive that and are interested, please let me know. Or if Sharon or Carol or Matthew could share everybody's email address with me, I'll make sure everybody at least gets an invitation to look and review. But, you know, as the cliche says, you know, this stuff is not possible without the helps of volunteers, which is so true. It's a big effort to put that event on. There's so many moving parts, and you know, while we've had lots of volunteers in the past, sometimes we still lack the numbers that we need. So yeah, certainly just encourage all you individuals to possibly participate, and or just, if nothing else, just share the message if you're not available or not interested, which is totally fine. But and then if definitely come out and view it and be a part of it and just see the action. It should be really exciting. So thanks.
Hey, Michael, I did not
August
get that.
4th and 5th.
I did not get your volunteer information. So if you want to resend it to me, I'll get it out to the full committee for sure.
Huh, yeah, I thought you.
I know, I get all your emails, but I don't seem to see that.
I sent it in the middle of the night last night when I finished it, so I might have made a mistake. I don't know. I'll have to double check that.
Sitting in the draft folder. I do that a lot. Okay. All right. Anything else? I'm going to go ahead and pull together the folks who talked about doing communication stuff. We'll start looking at some preferences. It'll probably be a doodle poll or something like that, virtual, because that's easy, and we can get some times of day and chunks of time down on the calendar. I don't know of anything special or specific that we have coming up for June, so we'll just update the committee, or if you know of something that we need to focus on for that meeting, let us know. Anything else? Hopefully I'll see a lot of you next Wednesday. Matthew, anything before we wrap up? I did not. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in June, we will have a new bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. So we'll be able to introduce you to that person. And so his name is Ben, and Sharon, Carol, we will we'll set up a meeting with you so we can introduce you and get him up to speed on what all the work that is going on here. The other announcement is that I won't be at that meeting. This is my last Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting. So I'm moving into the planning department. So I just want to thank all of you for really developing this group. This is, I think, just what we had in mind when we made this recommendation in the bicycle master plan and worked to get this group formed. So thank you all for all the time that you put in. And this is, I think, where we're going to see change happen is through groups like this. So I appreciate all of your effort and taking the time to be involved. So thank you.
This is your legacy, Matthew.
Yeah, congratulations. I hate
you.
We won't get to see you quite as much in the same ways, but I know you'll still be doing great work. Thank you.
I will still be involved, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll try not to keep calling you for I'll try to redirect to the new person.
It's habits. It'll be a hard habit to break.
Right.
Wow. I don't have anything after that. It just. Whew. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the extended time very much. We needed it, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
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 Bye.